I never thought I'd wake up in my son's body, staring at the reflection of a man I barely recognized anymore. Ethan, 28, with his sharp jawline and that smug half-smile that had always screamed entitlement. But there I was, on a crisp December morning in 2025, my hands, his hands, trembling as they adjusted the silk tie around my neck, the one he'd bought with my stolen money. The first words out of my mouth, in his deep baritone, were a curse I'd never uttered in my life. "You bastard, you finally did it." And just like that, with a single anonymous tip to the SEC, I watched his $2.8 million merger evaporate like morning fog over the Hudson, all while he sipped eggnog at his office holiday party, oblivious that his mother was pulling the strings from inside his skin. It started 6 months earlier, back when I was still Valerie Hargrove, a nobody mid-level accountant at Sterling Dynamics in Midtown Manhattan, scraping by on a salary that barely covered the rent on my one-bedroom in Hell's Kitchen. Ethan was my golden boy, the one who'd clawed his way up from the same gritty streets, landing a VP spot at the same firm by 26. I'd raised him alone after his father bailed when he was 5, pouring every dime, every dream into his Ivy League tuition. "Mom, you're my rock," he'd say, kissing my cheek before dashing off to another board meeting. But rocks get buried, don't they? Especially when the landslide is your own flesh and blood. The betrayal hit like a freight train on a rainy Tuesday in June. I'd been crunching numbers late, as always, when the feds burst through the doors. FBI, suits crisp as fresh dollar bills, badges glinting under the fluorescence. "Valerie Hargrove, you're under arrest for embezzlement and securities fraud." My heart slammed against my ribs like a trapped bird. Embezzlement? I'd balanced books for 20 years without a single red cent missing. But there it was, on their laptops, forged transfers, ghost accounts in my name, siphoning $1.2 million from client funds. The evidence was ironclad, timestamps matching my login, emails from my IP. I screamed for a lawyer, but deep down I knew. Ethan's promotion had come too fast, too clean. He'd been gunning for that corner office, whispering to the brass about streamlining inefficiencies. And I'd been the inefficiency. In the interrogation room, sweat beading on my forehead under the harsh lights, I pieced it together. The late nights he'd borrowed my access codes for a quick audit. The way he'd pale when I mentioned spot checks. "It's a setup, I swear," I told the agent, a stone-faced guy named Ruiz with a Brooklyn accent thick as bagels. He just leaned back, arms crossed. "Your son's the one who tipped us off anonymously. Said he found discrepancies in your work." Liar. Ethan couldn't. But the seed was planted, rotten and deep. By dawn, I'd confessed to lesser charges to spare the firm a trial. Plea bargain for 2 years at Rikers, probation after. "For the family," my public defender urged. Family? What a joke. Prison was a gray blur of fluorescent hell, where time stretched like taffy and hope curdled into resentment. Rikers wasn't the glamour of Orange is the New Black. It was roaches in the showers, screams echoing at 3 a.m., and the constant grind of survival among women who'd been chewed up by the system. I shared a cell with Marla, a lifer for armed robbery, who taught me to knit as therapy. "Keeps the rage from boiling over. Chica," she'd rasp, her fingers flying over yarn. But rage doesn't knit away. It festers. Letters from Ethan arrived sporadically, polished apologies, news of his rapid ascent. "I'm so sorry, Mom. The pressure. I had to protect the company. You'll be out soon, and we'll celebrate." Celebrate. By my release in November, he'd been named COO, the youngest in Sterling's history, with whispers of a mega merger on the horizon. $2.8 million in commissions for him alone, if it closed by New Year's. I stepped out of those gates into a biting wind, free on paper, but chained to parole. No job, my record was poison. No home. Ethan had kindly sold my apartment to cover legal fees. He picked me up in his gleaming Tesla, all smiles and cologne that smelled like success. "Mom, you look great. Toughened up." We drove to his penthouse on the Upper East Side, a glass palace with views that mocked my fall. That night, over takeout Thai, he laid it out casual as confetti. The frame-up was necessary. "You were stagnating, Mom. I needed the spotlight." Necessary. Like clipping a dog's nails. I stared at him, my son, the boy I'd bandaged knees for, now a shark in bespoke wool. "You let me rot for your ladder," I whispered. He shrugged. "Blood's thicker than water, but ambition's thicker than blood." That's when the swap happened. Not some voodoo curse or lightning strike. Oh no, this was America 2025, where tech billionaires play God in Silicon Alley basements. Ethan, ever the innovator, had been dabbling in Neuralink knockoffs, experimental neural bridges for enhanced cognition. He'd bragged about it once, a prototype helmet syncing minds for seamless collaboration. I'd laughed it off as bro science. But on Christmas Eve, as snow flurried against the windows, he demoed it for me, strapped me in as the control subject to prove his genius. Trust me, Mom. It'll blow your mind. The hum started low, a vibration in my skull, then escalated to a scream of static. Pain lanced through my neurons like fire, and the world inverted. When the lights faded, I was staring at my own face, pale, confused, across the room. Ethan blinked from my body, horror dawning. What the Mom? Panic set in fast. Me, lurched forward, fumbling with the helmet's emergency release. But I was quicker in his frame, adrenaline surging through younger veins. I yanked the cord, sparks flying, and the connection severed with a pop. We were stuck. Me and Ethan's body, him and mine. Fix it, he shrieked in my voice, high and reedy. I laughed, a deep rumble that felt foreign and freeing. Oh, honey, this is poetic justice. He lunged, but I was taller, stronger. I pinned him, to the floor, the plush carpet muffling his sobs. You stole my life once. Now I've got yours. Merry Christmas. The first hours were chaos. He begged, threatened, even tried to call 911 from my phone, but I smashed it under my heel, his heel. Who'd believe a disgraced ex-con over the COO of Sterling Dynamics? I locked him in the guest room, my old body curling into a fetal ball on the king-sized bed. I raided his closet. Armani suits, Rolexes, cufflinks engraved with his initials. In the mirror, I practiced his walk, that cocky swagger down Madison Avenue. By dawn, as he pounded on the door in my frail fists, I was Ethan Hargrove, unbreakable. The merger was the prize, Sterling Dynamics acquiring a fintech startup, ValorPay, for $2.8 million in stock options straight to Ethan's, my, pocket. Closing was set for December 23rd, 2 days away, at a black-tie gala in the Waldorf Astoria. The board adored him. Investors drooled over his visionary pivot. But I knew the underbelly, the hidden secret he'd buried deeper than my prison stint. The embezzlement? It wasn't just ambition. It was desperation. Ethan had a gambling habit, black market crypto bets on offshore sites, hemorrhaging 6 figures monthly. The funds he'd pinned on me. Half went to payoffs for rigged audits, the rest to bookies in Atlantic City. I'd found the statements in his desk months before the arrest, deleted emails to a Mr. V demanding one last score. I'd confronted him once, softly, like a mother should. Let me help. He'd sneered. Stay in your lane, Mom. Now, in his skin, I had access. His laptop password was my birthday. Ironic that. Files spilled open. Encrypted folders of wire transfers to Cayman accounts, photos of him at high-stakes poker dens, even a desperate voice memo. Valerie's the patsy. Clean slate after this. His blood boiled. Parole be damned. This was war. But revenge isn't a sprint. It's a slow bleed. I started small. Monday morning, I strode into Sterling's tower on 57th, badge scanning with a beep that echoed triumph. Morning, Ethan cooed his assistant, Lila, a peroxide blonde with ambition in her heels. Coffee. I nodded, channeling his chill. Black, like my soul. She tittered. I smirked. The office hummed with pre-holiday buzz, tinsel on cubicles, secret Santa whispers. I buried myself in merger docs, eyes scanning for leverage. By lunch, I'd flagged irregularities. ValorPay's valuation inflated by 20%, propped on falsified user metrics. Ethan's doing, no doubt, cooking books to juice the deal. A quick email to the auditors, anonymous from a burner account. Check the back-end logs. Smoke and mirrors. That night, back in the penthouse, Valerie was a wreck, pacing in silk pajamas, demanding release. You're ruining everything. The board trusts you. I poured scotch, his favorite. They trust Ethan, not some junkie fraud. He froze. You don't know shit. But I did. The twist of the knife. I'd suffered for his sins, took the fall so he could shine. Now, I'd dim that light. Tuesday blurred into strategy. I charmed the merger team over Zoom. Ethan's charisma was a weapon I'd wield like a pro. We're revolutionizing payments. I boomed, masking the tremor of my stolen voice. Investors nodded. Shares ticked up 3%. But under the table, his foot, tapped Morse code anxiety. That evening, I slipped out to a payphone in Central Park, collar up against the chill. Call to Ruiz, the Fed from my nightmare. It's Hargrove. Got a tip on Sterling. Big fish. He grunted, skeptical. The COO? Bullshit. Check the sun's offshore trails. Follow the crypto. Click. Seed planted. By Wednesday, the gala loomed. I dressed Ethan in a Tom Ford tux, spritzed his cologne, woody, expensive. In the mirror, I was him, poised, predatory. Downstairs, Valerie huddled in the foyer, eyes wild in my face. Please, Mom. It's Christmas. I knelt, our gazes locking, mother and monster. You made your bed, son. Now lie in it. The limo purred up. I left her there, shivering. The Waldorf's grand ballroom glittered like a fever dream. Chandeliers dripping crystal tears, air thick with Chanel and cigar smoke. A string quartet sawing at jingle bells like it owed them money. I, Ethan, mingled like a pro, handshakes firm, laughs booming. Darling, you look ravishing. I told the ValorPay CEO's wife, a Botoxed redhead named Kendra, while her husband droned about synergies. Inside, Valerie's heart raced, her intuition screaming warnings. This was the climax, signatures on napkins turning to contracts by midnight. $2.8 million, Ethan's golden parachute. But I had other plans. Slipping into the powder room, I fired off the kill shot, an encrypted dossier to the SEC hotline, CC to the Times business desk. Attachments, Ethan's gambling ledgers, forged ValorPay audits, my own prison transcripts as collateral damage. Headline bait, Sterling Dynamics heirs House of Cards, embezzlement echoes. Send. The whoosh was sweeter than any plea bargain. Back in the fray, champagne flute in hand, I spotted him, Mr. V, the bookie, lurking by the bar in an ill-fitting cummerbund. Real name Victor Lang, a Jersey wise guy with ties to the Genovese family, slinging debts like candy at a parade. Ethan owed him $800K, collateralized against the merger payout. Victor's eyes narrowed as I approached, mistaking me for the mark. Hargrove, deal closing tonight. His voice was gravel over glass. I clinked glasses, leaning in. Wouldn't bet on it. He chuckled, missing the double entendre. Smart man. But debts don't wait for Santa. The speech was at 10 p.m., Ethan's moment. I took the podium, lights hot on my borrowed face, scanning the crowd. Board members in bow ties, reporters with notepads, Kendra fanning herself. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, voice steady as Wall Street. Tonight, Sterling doesn't just acquire ValorPay. We redefine trust in finance. Applause rippled. I wove the pitch, blockchain security, AI fraud detection, buzzwords like confetti. But laced in were barbs, subtle nods to transparency audits, and legacy cleanups. The board beamed. Victor scowled from the shadows. Then, the first crack. My phone, his phone, vibrated in my pocket. SEC alert, automated but damning. Preliminary inquiry, Sterling Dynamics, valuation discrepancies. I ignored it, powering through. Signatures flowed, pens scratching like claws. By 11, the deal was inked, cheers erupting. I raised a toast, throat tight with Valerie's bile. To new beginnings. But as glasses clinked, Ruiz texted from an untraceable line. Got your tip. Rate at dawn. Stay clear. Home by 1 a.m. The penthouse loomed dark, a tomb of tinsel. Valerie was asleep or feigning. In the master, my old body sprawled like a discarded doll. I checked the guest room mirror, peeling off the tux like shedding skin. Bruises bloomed on her wrists from pounding. Guilt flickered, then died. This was justice, American style. Cutthroat, zero-sum. Dawn broke bloody over the skyline. I watched from the balcony, coffee steaming, as cop cars swarmed Sterling's tower, blue and white strobes painting the snow red. News helicopters buzzed like vultures. Ethan was untouchable, barricaded in the C-suite, but the feds had warrants thicker than a phone book. By 8 a.m., headlines screamed, Sterling COO probed in fraud scandal, embezzlement ties to former employee. That employee? Me. The twist they didn't see. The COO was innocent, technically. It was his mother, puppeteering from the grave of her stolen life. The board called an emergency Zoom. face as pale as eggnog curds. "Ethan, what the hell?" barked the chairman, a silver fox named Hargrove. No relation, thank God. I leaned back in his leather chair, feet up. "Gentlemen, this is sabotage. Deep fakes, hacked emails. I've got forensics on it. Lies, smooth as bourbon. They bought it for now. The merger? Frozen pending investigation. $2.8 million? Poof. Ethan's empire, crumbling under Valerie's gavel. Downstairs, she confronted me in the kitchen, my face twisted in fury. "You destroyed it. My career gone." I sipped coffee, calm as a corpse. "Your career? Try 2 years in Gen Pop, son. That's destruction." He lunged, my nails, raking his cheek. Blood welled, a thin red line. "Controversial? Hell yes, striking your own mother, even if she's you." I backhanded him away, strength surging. "Fight fair, or don't fight at all." He crumpled, sobbing. "I did it for us. The money. It was for your retirement." "Bullshit. It was for his yacht dreams, his Vegas benders." The days blurred into a siege. Reporters camped outside, flashbulbs popping like gunfire. I played the victim. Ethan, besieged visionary, leaking counter-narratives to friendly journos. Whistleblower witch hunt. Shares tanked 15%, but I shorted them first, pocketing $200K in the chaos. Parole officer called. I dodged, claiming family emergency. Victor showed up at noon on the 24th, pounding the door like Judgment Day. "Hargrove, we had a deal." I buzzed him up, gun from Ethan's safe in hand. Glock 19, oiled and cold. "Victor, sit." He had the piece, smirking. "Family business?" "Something like that." I slid a check across the island. $900K, drained from Ethan's slush fund. "Paid in full. Disappear." He pocketed it, whistling. "You're colder than your old man." Gone by 1 p.m. Christmas Eve. The penthouse felt like a stage set, tree twinkling in the corner, gifts unwrapped by ghosts. Valerie barricaded in the bedroom, refusing food. I cooked turkey anyway, the scent wafting like a taunt. At midnight mass on TV, St. Patrick's, candles flickering, I whispered a prayer in her voice. "Forgive us our trespasses." But forgiveness? That's for suckers. This was reckoning. The twist brewed slow. I'd overlooked one thread, Ethan's neural logs. The helmet had backups, cloud synced to a lab in Brooklyn. By Boxing Day, as feds grilled Ethan in a sterile conference room, me stonewalling with lawyer speak, a ping on his phone. Unknown sender. Subject acquired. Reversal protocol engaged. Drive Voss. Voss. The neurotech was Ethan had funded off books. Panic clawed my gut. If they reversed it? I raced to the lab, Tesla screaming through slushy streets. Brooklyn warehouse, graffiti tagged, humming with servers. Voss, a wiry German in a lab coat, greeted me with a syringe smile. "Mr. Hargrove." Or should I say? He knew. The logs don't lie. Strapped to the chair again, helmet descending like a crown of thorns, I thrashed. "Wait, Ethan's the crook." Voss shrugged. "Ethics are flexible. Your son's check cleared. Buzz. Pain. World flipping." I woke in my body, frail, aching, staring at Ethan, triumphant in his. "Mom," he cooed, patting my cheek. "Nap time's over." But the real twist? I'd anticipated. In the split-second sync, I'd uploaded a virus, Ethan's own code, twisted, to Voss's system. Alarms wailed as I staggered up. "What did you?" Ethan froze, then convulsed, foam at his lips. Neural overload. Dead in seconds, eyes glassy. Cops burst in, Ruiz leading. "Valerie Hargrove, you're under arrest." "For murder?" "No. For the merger sabotage?" "Worse, exposing the truth." But as they cuffed me, I smiled. The deal was dust, Ethan's legacy ash. Justice, served cold. Was it revenge or matricide? You decide. No, wait. That wasn't the end. As they dragged me out, Voss's terminal flickered. Protocol incomplete. Dual bind. My vision doubled. Ethan's ghost in my mind. We were linked, forever. Mother and son, damned in tandem. The holding cell at one police plaza smelled like stale coffee and regret, a concrete box with a bench that bit into my hips like accusation. December 27th, 2025, and the city outside buzzed with post-holiday returns, oblivious to the farce unfolding within. Ruiz paced the hall, visible through bars, his face a map of doubt. "You want to explain, Hargrove? Your son dead." Lab tech says neural feedback loop. And that dossier? Traced to your burner. I leaned back, my own hands, calloused, familiar, folded in my lap. He killed himself, agent. Ambition's a bitch. Ruiz snorted. And the SEC tip? Revenge porn for the white-collar set. I met his eyes, Valerie's steel. Call it closure. The interrogation stretched into hours, fluorescent buzz drilling my skull. Lawyers swarmed. Ethan's firm, conflicted but billing anyway. No comment. I repeated a mantra. But inside, the link pulsed. Ethan's consciousness, fragmented, whispering in my neurons like static on an old radio. Mom, fix this. Haunting? Or hallucination from the swap? Voss had botched it, binding us in some quantum limbo. Every blink, I saw flashes, his poker losses, my prison bunks, memories bleeding like watercolors. By evening, bail set at $500K. Who posted? Marla, my cell block knitter, via some inmate solidarity fund. Told you rage don't knit. She'd wired with the cash. Out into the sleet, I hailed a cab to Hell's Kitchen, my old walk-up, reclaimed via squatter's rights. The place was a time capsule. Dust on the mantel, Ethan's childhood drawings yellowed on the fridge. I collapsed on the futon, the link surging. Why? Ethan's voice, petulant. I was building something. You built a cage, I muttered aloud. For both of us. News cycled nonstop. Tragic end for Sterling Air, neurotech gone wrong. Pundits debated, innovation hubris or foul play. Sterling's stock cratered 40%, the merger autopsy fodder for CNBC. Victor Lang? Vanished, check cashed in Miami. Lila, Ethan's assistant, called from a blocked number. Mr. Hargrove? Valerie, he left you everything. Well, reading tomorrow. Everything. The penthouse, the Tesla, the tainted millions frozen in probate. Pyrrhic, but I'd take it. Sleep came fitful, dreams a mashup. Riker's showers morphing into Waldorf chandeliers. Ethan's laugh echoing in my screams. Woke to pounding, parole officer, revoking my freedom. Tampering with evidence? Assault. Back to Riker's by noon, irony's full circle. Marla greeted me with a hug, rough as burlap. Girl, you look like hell warmed over. Overweak tea in the yard. I spilled. Swap. Revenge, the ghost in my head. She whistled low. That's some Greek shit. But you got the last word. I nodded, but the link buzzed assent. Liar. While reading in a Midtown conference room, January 2nd. Suited sharks circled, bored remnants. Distant cousins sniffing inheritance. Lila read the codicil, voice cracking. To my mother, Valerie Hargrove, I bequeath all assets in recognition of her. Sacrifices. Gasps rippled. Sacrifices. The word hung, controversial as a live wire. Did he mean love or the frame? I signed, pocketing keys to the kingdom. But as I left, a folder slipped from the pile. Ethan's journal, leather-bound, overlooked. Pages chronicled the descent. Yale poker nights escalating to dark web bets. Debts snowballing post-grad. Mom's steady. She'll cover if it goes south. Then, the pivot. Sterling higher, my access codes as lifeline. Necessary evil. She takes the heat. I rise. But the secret within the secret, the one that twisted my gut, Voss wasn't just a techie. He was Ethan's half-brother, born from an affair with the founder's mistress. Funded by embezzled cash, the neural project was their escape. Swap into elite bodies, shed debts like skins. Valerie's the key, trusting fool. Me, the patsy twice over. Rage reignited, but tempered now. The link flared. Sorry. Ethan's whisper, genuine? Or manipulation's echo? Back at Riker's, lockdown loomed, new charges pending. Manslaughter via tech tampering. Marla smuggled in Voss's contact, pilfered from a guard's phone. End it, she urged. Midnight call from the payphone, snow muffling my voice. Dr. Voss, we need to talk. He laughed, tinny. Frau Hargrove, the bind is permanent. A feature, not a bug. Reverse it. For a price. Expose me, and your son's mind unravels. Yours too. Checkmate. January thawed into controversy's storm. Op-eds raged. Mother's vengeance or tech terror? Feminists hailed me as underdog avenger. Conservatives decried family betrayal's moral rot. Talk shows booked me. Virtual, from jail. Was it worth it? The host probed, Botox smooth. I stared into the camera, Ethan's ghost flickering in my periphery. Blood buys nothing. But truth? Priceless. Ratings spiked. A GoFundMe for legal fees hit 2 mil donors. Ex-inmates, betrayed wives, even Kendra from the gala. For the women who fight back. But the decisions gnawed, controversial forks in the road. Should I have let the merger slide, preserved the facade for family? Or exposed Victor, risking mob retaliation? No. Hesitation was Ethan's sin, action mine. In the yard, Marla and I plotted. Appeal on tech duress, Voss's co-conspirator. The Link protested, don't. We're in this. Shut up, I hissed. You're dead. Climax brewed in federal court. February chill seeping through the gallery's oak. Me in orange, Voss in a cheap suit, Ruiz testifying. Logs show intent. Hargrove Sr. initiated the overload. Lies, fed by Ethan's ghost. The bind allowed whispers, suggestions blooming in my subconscious. Sabotage him, Mom. Us against the world. I resisted, but doubt crept. DA painted me monster. A mother who murdered for spite. Defense countered. Victim of son's machinations, swap as assault. Jury deliberated 3 days, snow blanketing the courthouse like absolution. Verdict, mistrial. Hung jury, half saw vigilante justice, half filicide horror. Bail reinstated, retrial pending. Free, I claimed the penthouse, Ethan's ghost a constant companion. Home sweet home. I ignored him, unpacking Marla's yarn, knitting scarves for the shelter. But at night, the Lynx sang sins. His first bet, my first prison meal. Symbiosis or torment? The real high-stakes revenge? I leaked the journal to WikiLeaks, redacted, of course. Sterling scandal, heir's secret sibling plot. Voss fled to Zurich, Sterling dissolved in lawsuits. My cut, 1.2 mil settlement, laundered clean. Controversial? Donating half to Riker's reform. Ironic philanthropy from the inside woman. Yet the twist reversed everything. March equinox, full moon mocking through the windows. The link intensified, Ethan's memories flooding, not just deaths, but love. A hidden folder, post-mortem, videos of him visiting me in prison, bribing guards for extra time. I couldn't face you, his note read. But I never stopped fighting the conviction. Private eye on Voss, the swap was to free us both. Free? The project wasn't escape, it was confession. He'd planned the bind as atonement, share the burden, literally. Tears, mine, hot on my cheeks. Betrayal inverted. I'd avenged a ghost of my making. Mom, forgive? The voice, small. I whispered yes, but the damage lingered. Was it happy? Tragic? The debate raged in my skull, eternal. Spring 2026 bloomed tentative in the city, cherry blossoms defiant against concrete, but my world stayed wintered in. The penthouse, once Ethan's trophy, felt like a mausoleum. Echoes in the halls, his cologne lingering like accusation. I'd hired cleaners, but ghosts don't vacuum. The link hummed constant now, a low-frequency ache. Ethan's fragments piecing themselves, memories surfacing like bodies in the East River. Mornings, I'd wake to his cravings for adrenaline, for the next hand, the next deal. Fight it. I'd mutter, brewing tea instead of espresso. But addiction's a shared vein. Mine was the rage, his the rush. Symbiotic damnation. Marla moved in post-release. Parole overlapped ours like tangled yarn. This place? Too big for one haunted bitch, she declared, claiming the guest suite with her prison-issue duffel. We knit in silence some nights, scarves piling like evidence. You think he's really gone? She'd ask, needles clicking. I'd shrug. Gone enough. But at 3 a.m., the link would flare. Deal me in, Mom. Poker dreams. Virtual tables where I'd fold every hand. Therapy? A shrink at Bellevue called it dissociative echo. Fancy for you're fucked. Pills prescribed, but I flushed them. Drugs were Ethan's crutch. I'd walk raw. The retrial loomed like a guillotine, set for June. DA amped charges. Conspiracy, now, with Voss's extradition pending. Media circus reignited. Mother monster or mind merger martyr? Pundits picking sides like NFL drafts. I granted one interview to a podcaster in a Soho loft. Mike's hot under exposed bulbs. Valerie, walk us through the swap. Was it empowerment or erasure? I sipped water, voice steady. Both. He took my body. I took his choices. Revenge? Sure. But the real crime was silence, his mine. We both let it fester. Listeners flooded the hotline. Team Valerie versus lock her up. Debatable ending, indeed, justice as Rorschach test. Meanwhile, the inheritance unraveled. IRS audits clawed at the 1.2 mil, deeming it proceeds of crime. Lawyers billed faster than bookies. Victor resurfaced, an email, cryptic. Interest accrues. 200K by May, or Jersey visits. Mob tax on the chaos I'd sown. I met him in a diner off the turnpike, neutral ground smelling of grease and regret. Hargrove, he growled, toothpick rolling. Your boy's ghost chasing debts? I slid an envelope. Cash from the GoFundMe dregs. Paid. Family's closed. He pocketed it, eyes narrowing. Smart. But blood calls blood. Threat or truce? In America, it's both. The decisions piled, each thornier than the last. Donate the rest to neural ethics research? Burn it on appeals? I chose hybrid. Seed of foundation, Hargrove bind. Funding for swap victims, real or metaphorical. Press conference in Central Park, Mayday's sun warm on my face. Ethan and I, we were bound by more than tech. Betrayal, yes, but love's the deeper cut. Cameras flashed, the links swelled with pride. Nice speech. First positive echo. Progress? Voss arrived in cuffs, July swelter turning the courtroom to a sweatbox. His testimony cracked the case wide. The project, Etton's vision. Atonement device. Share the pain, bridge the gap. Jury leaned forward, fans whirring. And the overload. DA pressed. Voss smirked. Sabotage. But whose hand? The bind blurs intent. Me? Ethan? Us. Expert witnesses duked it out. Neurodocs diagramming synapses like battle maps. Co-perpetration, one concluded. Emerged mind commits as one. Deliberation stretched a week, city holding breath. Marla and I paced the penthouse, TV muted on loop. If it's guilty, she said, we bolt to Florida. I laughed, bitter. Run from myself? Verdict at dusk. Not guilty. Tech impossibility proving mutual agency. The court finds the defendant acted under duress of unprecedented circumstance. Cheers from the gallery. Activists, mostly. Outside, rain lashed. Ruiz shook my hand. You're free, Hargrove. But watch your back. The link exploded. We did it. Freedom tasted like rain and rust. Foundation launched. First grant to a Rikers program. Knitting for neural health. Marla heading it. Victor's silence bought peace. Sterling's remnants settled for pennies. But the reversal's full weight hit autumn, leaves turning like pages. The link evolved, not haunt, but harmony. Ethan's insights sharpened my pitches. My resilience steadied his impulses. We co-wrote a book, ghosted, pun intended, bound by blood. A mother's revenge, a son's redemption. Bestseller, naturally. Oprah called, we declined. Private now. Christmas circled back, 2026, a year since the swap. Penthouse aglow, tree modest, ornaments from my Hell's Kitchen days. Marla hosted. Turkey, eggnog, ex-cons toasting second chances. No gifts, experiences, we joked. But at midnight, alone on the balcony, snow dusting my hair, the links softened to a hum. Happy holidays, Mom. You too, kid. Was it happy? The deal canceled, empires toppled, a death undone in spirit. Tragic? We'd both scarred, decisions echoing in empty rooms. Frame the innocent, sabotage the sun, embrace the monster within. The debate? Eternal. Readers argued forums. Valerie's hero, patriarchy's fall, versus enabler turned executioner. Family first. Me? I knit on, needles clicking fate. Revenge closed no wounds, but it carved new paths. In America's grind, that's victory enough. Blood thicker? Nah. Wool's thicker still. And if the bind ever snaps? Well, that's another story. For now, we're one. Mother, son, Avenger unbound.